Okay, hold on just a minute, y'all. I've got to. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Facebook Live with GAE. I am Lisa Morgan, a kindergarten teacher and president of GAE, and we have with us this evening.
I'm Sharon Doe. I'm the Vice President of GAE, and I'm a physics and biology teacher in Augusta, Georgia.
And I'm Carly Shaw, and I'm a physical science teacher in Fulton County, Georgia, and I'm the Secretary Treasurer of GAE.
And we are so excited this evening because we have as our very special guest the new president of the National Education Association, Becky Pringle. She is a middle school science teacher. Yes, I feel surrounded by science teachers this evening with 31 years of classroom experience. And she is a fierce social justice warrior and defender of educator rights. She has focused on using her intellect, passion, and purpose to unite the members of the largest labor union in our nation, the National Education Association, to fulfill the promise of public education for our students. She is from North Philly. She loves her football and her Eagles, and she has a new grandbaby. And we don't have pictures of her tonight, but I'm sure we might hear some stories. Becky, welcome to our GAE Facebook Live. Thank you so much for joining us. And now we'd like to give you a little bit of time to discuss your vision for the NEA.
So, oh my goodness, Lisa and Sharon and Carly, it is so good to be here with you this evening. And what a powerful team you have. This is phenomenal. I feel honored to be with you ladies, and with all of the members that are joining you here this evening. I can't tell you how proud I am to be the president of the largest labor union in this country, the National Education Association. All of our teachers and our support staff and our bus drivers, our paraprofessionals, our counselors and nurses, all of the people in K-12 and higher ed who are the people who have dedicated their lives, right, ladies? They have dedicated their lives to ensuring not one, not some, but every student has what they need when they need it. I am so excited, and I do struggle, Lisa. I struggle using that word in this moment where we're facing all of these these crises. We're in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic, which has really propelled the economic divide in this country, and so we're facing that economic injustice throughout our system. Of course, education injustice, and bringing to light what we knew all along, the inequities that exist in our system. And certainly, as we see our country really wrestle with the reckoning because of the racial injustice that has existed forever. It is this moment where we need to reground ourselves as a country in public education as a common good, as the foundation of our democracy. And so when you ask me about what my vision is, Lisa, and you've heard me speak many times, and every time I speak, you know that I talk at front and center is always our powerful NEA mission. So when you listen to me talk about my vision, you will hear that, because that is always my North Star. So I'm talking about advocating for education professionals and uniting not just our nation, not just our members, because we can't do this by ourselves, right? But the entire nation, to ensure that all students and all educators and all schools are excelling, and everyone knows it. And not just that, but that we're doing all of that to fulfill the promise of public education. And we are using that compelling vision in a way, and representing it in a way that it demonstrates that we all have this shared responsibility. It's not just us, it's everyone, it's the community. It's leaders throughout our communities from coast to coast that should share that responsibility in ensuring that it is all students, and it is all educators, and it is all schools. And that guides all of our policies and practices and systems at every level of our government, so local, state, and national governments, and it reflects our commitment to racial and social and education justice. So what does that mean? I know you're going to ask me that, Lisa. That means that every student is supported in and prepared for their next journey. So you are surrounded, Lisa, by 3 middle school teachers. So we understand a thing or two about middle level learners, and they're different. And we know that for our little babies in elementary school to be prepared for middle school, we have to make sure that we are thinking about their growth and development. So academic, of course, but also that social emotional development that we see when we are working with those babies with attitude in those wonder years. And so we have to prepare them for that. So it's not only about preparing them for college and careers, it's about preparing them for each level of their journey. We need to prepare them, and we know this is true right now, for their civic responsibility. We need to prepare them to be leaders so that they can fulfill their fullest potential as empowered individuals and constructive members of their communities that can take care of their families and contribute to our economy, that they are productive participants in that economy, and that they are engaged citizens of the United States and of the world. So regardless of where they come from, Jim, regardless of where they come from, they are participating in that process. And then when I think about all educators, I think about all of us being supported in and continuously prepared for professional excellence throughout our entire continuum, both teachers and ESP, so that we are prepared to engage in what I call collective autonomy and collaborative practice. That's just powerful and so exciting that we're actually advancing and we're leading our profession, and that we have the professional authority and right and professional compensation. So that's what I envision with all educators, and with every school. Every school is supported by parents and community, local, state, and national governments, and that they reflect the highest aspiration of the communities, and that our schools contribute to the community's success. And I know you might ask me this, Lisa, that's big and that's bold, and how is that happening? Well, I'm talking about a collaboration within the association and externally with our partners, because there is absolutely no way, honestly, we can lead this movement to reclaim public education as a common good, as that foundation of the democracy that I was talking about, and then transform it. Because it wasn't always designed for all kids. It wasn't. But we have to transform it into a racial, social, and educationally just and equitable system that is actually designed to prepare every student, everyone to succeed in a diverse and interdependent world. And so that's when I talk about my vision, that's what I'm talking about. Of course, right now we're all faced with the realities of reopening school buildings and talking about those realities, whether we have opened in person or virtually. And we have been talking about safe and equitable, not only standing in those gaps right now, but into the future. And then finally, I don't think I need to say this to you ladies, but we need a new president. And Georgia, no pressure, but we need a new Senate too. Can you help me out with that? Can you help me out with that, Carly? We need a new Senate. We need all of these things. And so that's my goal. Focus, because we have got to have a leader who understands that they need, first of all, science teachers. Oh, is your heart breaking? Seriously. Someone who believes in science, who listens to educators when we talk about how we need to reopen our schools safely and equitably. Someone who is working to make sure we get our economy back on track. Someone who believes on these founding principles of this country of equity and equality and freedom and justice. Someone who's going to unite this country in a powerful way. I think you know who I'm talking about. That would be Joe Biden, Kamala Harris. And so, yeah, what was the question here, Lisa? That is my vision. And those are my goals for this year. And I know I can count on GAE. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. To
Now,
get it done.
you mentioned a new president and a new Senate. What about a new Secretary of Education?
Ooh.
What about that one?
What about that, Sharon? What about that? So, people, it's really kind of interesting, Sharon, because it's really people don't always get the connections, right? They don't always get the connection that everything that happens in our classrooms, for our students, for our colleagues, for your state, for this, it's every decision that's made is a political one. So when people disconnect Betsy DeVos from Donald Trump, I don't get that. He's the one that nominated her, and the Senate, which you guys are going to take care of, is the one that confirmed her, right? So when people say, "Well, how can we get a new Secretary of Education?" Well, we need to get a new president. That's how we do it. So how do we do that? You make a plan to vote, and you vote, and you vote. You get everyone who likes you, and everyone who loves you, and everyone who intends to keep living with you to vote too. Make a plan today. And Lisa, you guys have early voting there in Georgia, right?
We have early voting. We
When
also
does it start?
early voting starts Monday, October 12th. And can I throw a little commercial in here real quick? Because our first commercial break was going to be here in GAE. We are making sure that all of our members have their plan to vote and that they are going to vote. So on Tuesday nights, we text our members. On Thursday nights, we do social media. And on Saturdays, we do phone banking. And we are doing all of that every week. And we need volunteers. And I am going to put the link into the comments. So if you are watching us now and you have not volunteered yet, we want you to volunteer with us so that you can help us make sure that all of our members have a plan to vote and that they will be voting, whether they are going to vote by mail. And if you haven't requested your ballot to vote by mail, you need to do that soon because it's going to take some time. If you're going to early vote or you're going to vote by person. And someone in our comments just said they wanted to volunteer. And the link is there if you want to volunteer. So click on that link and it will take you to our campaigns and elections page. And you can click on any of the days that you are available to volunteer. And later, we'll tell you about a very special volunteer day, but I want you to volunteer for something that's not on there first. So if you can text, if you can make some phone calls, if you can share on social media, please volunteer and help us so that we can get a new president and a secretary of education that supports public education. And Sharon, I want to ask you, you jumped to our issues. I don't know if you know this, Becky, but our state school superintendent requested a waiver. So we would not have standardized tests in Georgia this year. And
Really?
really, and Ms. DeVos said
Wow.
no.
Because that's what she doesn't care about our kids. She doesn't care about anything except making money off of our students in our schools, destroying public education so she can make money off of our students in public schools, and making that top 1% richer and richer and richer. That's what she cares about. So, not
And
surprised.
and Sharon, can you tell us about your students and their grades?
Well, I teach biology, and biology has a test at the end of the year that's called the Georgia Milestone. So I thought about that today because I did a lab with my class today. We successfully socially distanced in lab today. But I was thinking about my kids who I teach online who didn't have that hands on experience. You know, most kids don't learn the same way. Some kids can learn from a book, but some kids actually have to do it. So, what I was thinking about is the fact that Betsy DeVos did not consider any of that in denying those waivers. Nothing swayed her. So, to me, I've come to the conclusion that we do need a new Secretary of Education.
And I just put the link for our sorry. Sorry. I put the link for the survey. Our state school superintendent recommended that since the waiver for the test was declined, he said, okay, they're going to force us by law to give this test, but we're not going to make it have consequences. And he wanted it to count 0.01%, as close to zero as he could legally get. And our state school board said no last Thursday. So there is now a survey for public input. It is in the link. It's in the comments. We want all of you that are viewing to go to that survey and let our state board of education know that educators and students are doing the very best they can through this situation.
Yes.
But this test should not count toward their grade at the end of the year. So that's my second little mini commercial, and to ask everyone to please go to that link. Carly, I think you're up next.
Well, while we're talking about getting a new Secretary of Education, one of the things that we've done with GAE and with our locals is to endorse candidates that are running for election. And we get to give them a survey that they fill out and turn back in a questionnaire. And those that respond and turn in questionnaires, because we send it to everybody that's on the list that has turned in their interest in becoming the next senator, House representative, whatever they're running for. Whoever turns in a questionnaire gets an interview. And after we do our interviews, which are interesting sometimes, I found the questionnaire sometimes seems to be something like what we want to hear, things that we're interested in. But when we interview, sometimes we get a little different spin on their answers. I'm wondering, how does NEA go about getting their endorsements?
So let me first start out by saying, I say this to folks who ask why are we involved in politics? And I start with what I said before, because all of these decisions, from school board decisions that was Exhibit A, what you just shared with me, all the way up to the White House, impacts our classrooms. And so I generally like to paraphrase Plato, and remind folks that anyone who thinks they are too good or too smart to be involved in politics will be ruled by those who are neither good nor smart. Can I get a witness? Yes, I can. I have one right here in DC. Okay. So I share that because I know some people are timid about that. And so, Carly, being very transparent about the process we use is absolutely essential because everyone's not as crazy as we are, what that we're just all the time 24/7 thinking about these things, because we know that our students are depending on us, right, to do these things. So what you just shared about your process is very similar to ours, and we make that very transparent. We put it online so folks know, who aren't, necessarily delegates to the representative assembly, but it's very grassroots based. So we have the Fund for Children in Public Education. That's our political action council. And it's made up of state presidents like Lisa, she sits on that council, and others. So we want to make sure we have good representation from our special education teachers, from our caucuses, from the LGBTQ caucus to women's caucus to our racially and ethnic caucus, racial and ethnic caucuses. So all of them sit on that council to make these decisions, and state presidents like Lisa bring those recommendations to the council. So they say, we want you to endorse this person or that person based on what Georgia's experience is with them, and the report card that we give them. How did they vote on our issues? How did they vote to help children or to help students? How about higher education? What about social justice issues? What about special education and fully funding, finally living up to their what they promised about the federal government actually funding 40% of IDEA and all of those kinds of things. So we ask them those questions, and based on the answers, we make recommendations. So when we're recommending for Congress, for the U.S. House, and for the Senate, those recommendations come from you, from Georgia. And what we know to be true is what you just described, Carly. So you have a structure there at the state level, and all of our states do, where they meet with their local leaders and local members, and they talk about these candidates. They interview them, just like you described, and then it finally comes to us. So it's not the NEA making these decisions by ourselves. It's coming from you, from our members. And then we make the decision whether we're going to endorse those candidates. For the president of the United States, our process is a little more stringent because that's important. And so this year we started, for example, we built, and I hope everyone goes to strongpublicschools.org. We built a specific website so that our members could engage with us. They could learn about all the candidates. We had like 59,000 of them running, didn't we? So we could learn about all the candidates who would interview with us. And we put all that information online so our members could engage. We got members to ask us questions. So our president, Lily, met with all of the candidates and interviewed them based on our members, average members, asking questions. She used those questions in the interviews. So our members, rank and file members, had a role to play. And then once that happened, then a recommendation, the PAC Council decided on making a recommendation. The board of directors, it went to the board of directors, which is almost 200 people from all over the country, came together and they decided to make a recommendation of Joe Biden to our highest governing body. 10,000 delegates, again, from all over the country came this year for the first time ever. We had a virtual RA, right? And we had a mail-in ballot. And I am so proud of our members because they really studied the candidates and they understood the issues. And they voted overwhelmingly, over 90% of our delegates voted to recommend Joe Biden. And so that's our process.
Thank you, Becky. And that's something, we hear from our members sometimes. They don't understand that members made those decisions. Carly, Sharon, and I were all delegates to the RA this year. I took my picture dropping my ballot in the mailbox because that's what that's what my local required of me, to show that I did my job as a delegate. So yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yes. One of the other
Cool.
things that I hear sometimes, and I know I teach in a school that is a Title I school, 100% free and reduced lunch. It is
Mm.
97% minority students. And so some of our educators that teach in other areas say, we're not the National Everything Association, stick to education. But I know that healthcare, for example, is very critical for my students. We have the dentist bus that comes, and it's a bus, and it is a full dentist office. And so the parents in my school can sign their children up, and the bus comes one day a month, and they get their dental care during school by going out to the bus. And that's something that they would not have if we didn't have that dental bus. So, can you tell our members who are concerned and they seem to think that we're not sticking in our lane, we're not staying in our lane when we're talking about education, why it's so important that we are involved in the discussion about healthcare and social justice and other issues, because they do impact our students.
They certainly do. And if ever there were a time for members who asked that question of you, Lisa, to understand how all of these social systems compound together. And we know that the light of inequity is shining on the students in your school. We know that. We know that students can't learn if they're hungry. So if they live in deserts, if they have food insecurity in their lives from day to day, they're not sure where they're going to get their next meal. Lisa, I know you saw this. I saw it in my school. I know you saw your students on the free and reduced lunch putting some of their food in their backpack, didn't they?
Every day.
But
Or
why?
yes, and they would say, I'm taking this home, or I didn't bite my apple. Can I take it home for my little brother? That's the ones that broke my
Mm,
heart, because they weren't even
right.
saving it for themselves. They were saving it for someone else.
That's exactly right, because they knew, first of all, that might be their only meals at school, probably are, and that their family at home needed food too. And so we know that that economic justice that we've been talking about, we have to be a part of that conversation. We have to make sure that we do everything we can to for our students, parents, to be able to make a living wage so they can feed their families. We know, and I know this is true in your school, Lisa, we know we have far too many students who are homeless. So there's housing insecurity too. And even more now since the pandemic. So we know we have to talk about housing and and the inequities in that social system, and of course healthcare. I mean, that's front and center. When we talk about, fighting right before we shut down in February, NEA actually convened a work group, a task force from organizations from across the country, because we wanted them to understand, and we had members talk with them and share with them what we call the homework gap, because we needed to bring folks together to help us drive home the message. And our members, our educators, telling that stories about kids that didn't have access to the internet. Now, that was before we were dependent on them actually being able to learn, having access to the internet. And so if ever our members saw all of those things coming together and impacting or impeding the learning of our students, it is absolutely now. So we have got to advocate for what we call the whole student, the whole student. Everything impacts whether they are able to learn, from climate justice. You know that. You know, our Black and Brown and students who are living in poverty are more impacted when a hurricane hits, or when a tornado takes out a. We know that. We know they're more impacted. And so all of those things that impact their ability to learn, or their parents or communities to be safe and healthy, we have to address. Our voices have to be heard. Because guess what, Lisa? You and I both know we are standing in the gaps for our students every single day. We're doing that every day. We're bringing them meals. We're finding glasses that from, we're working with the Boys and Girls Club. We're doing all those things because we get it. We get it. If they don't have it, they can't learn. So that's why we're involved in all those things, because we love our babies. That's why.
And that's one of those things. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and depress us. Becky, I depress us every week. I'm sorry, but I have to do it. And the way I depress us, I started keeping track on July 1st of the number of children birth to 17 in Georgia who have COVID-19.
Oh.
And on July 1st, that number was 5,026. Last Wednesday, September 30th, after 3 months, it was 28,717.
Mm.
This week, it's 29,586. So we've had another 800 children in Georgia who have contracted COVID-19 in 1 week.
Mm.
So
Wow.
every week we are seeing these numbers continue to go up. And one of our viewers commented, the pandemic exposed our students who have no computers or technology access. And it's also exposing our students who don't have access to health care. And if they don't have the access to health care and they are back somewhere where they are being exposed and they are contracting the virus, their outcome is not going to be good. And
Yeah.
so that's where we are. I'm going to try to.
Lisa, yeah, that just really, that takes your breath, right?
Mhm.
Um, but here's the thing. If we don't know the truth, then we can't make decisions that will change it. And so as hard as it is to hear that, you have to keep saying that because there are people in this country, and I'm sure in your state, who think that kids can't get it. They still think that's true. And then they go the next step. Well, okay, I guess they can get it, but so what? They're not going to get sick or they're not going to die. Yes, we do have children dying. That's true. And we have kids getting sick and having long-term effects. And we mostly have students who are getting infected with COVID-19 and going home and passing it on to their parents and to the community. So not just whether they get sick or die, it is the impact all across the community that all of those students who have COVID-19, who have contracted it, will impact. And so I really appreciate that you're doing that because you have to tell the truth as hard as it is. We have to tell the truth.
And so we've got several people commenting on this topic. Um, so one of the things that did happen today, and I'm just going to go ahead and let you know, and Becky, on behalf of GAE, I want to thank NEA for your assistance in this. Everyone at NEA has been absolutely wonderful assisting us in this. GAE today did file suit in Fulton County Superior Court against the governor, the state school superintendent, other state school officials, and the Paulding County School Board and superintendent, because we must keep our students safe and healthy. And that is not happening here in Georgia. So, for all of our members, you will receive a notification in the morning at 8 a.m. in your personal email with the details about this suit and that we have filed it. And you will also receive a survey. And I'm going to go ahead and put the survey link in the chat tonight, in the comments tonight, so that you can see that. And we are asking all of our members and your colleagues to please complete the survey so we do have that real clear picture of what's happening in our schools. Someone in the comments said, this is happening because we opened our buildings too soon. And we know that. And we also know, based on anecdotal evidence, that our systems are not telling the truth about what's happening in the buildings. We have heard time and time again from members who say, the website for my school says there are no cases, but I have 3 or 4 students who are out quarantining or they are positive. We have an educator who contacted me who was in the hospital with COVID, and the school
Oh,
website still says no positive cases in her school. And she contacted them and said, here's a picture of my results. Here's a picture of me in the hospital. So we know that is happening throughout our state. And we are, with the assistance of NEA, doing everything we can to impact that. So I'm going to keep checking the comments and see if we have some more questions. As we do that, Becky, let's throw it to you. Do you have a question for us?
Well, let me start there where I do actually, but let me start where you ended there, Lisa. First of all, it is our honor to partner with you in this lawsuit. One of the things that I get asked all the time by reporters is, what is NEA prepared to do to assist our members, our students, our communities, our parents in this moment where people who don't seem to care about the health of our students and the people who have dedicated their lives to educating them, what are you prepared to do? My answer is whatever we need to do. And if that means grassroots action, then we're supporting them in that. If it means legal action, then we're supporting them in that. And lastly, political action. And we're supporting them in that. Because if the people who are elected or appointed to positions that are supposed to take care of our children are not doing their jobs, then we need to come for their jobs. And that's exactly what we're going to do in just a few days. We're coming for your job if you don't care about our kids. That's what's happening. So I want to thank you, GAE, for being so strong and standing up. And Lisa, I like to talk about, the solidarity that comes with belonging to a 3 million member organization. And what I need you ladies to understand, this lawsuit is not just about GAE or Georgia, or students and educators in Georgia. It's about all of them. Because when they see GAE standing up and fighting for safe and equitable schools, then they say, oh, we could do that too. And that's right. Yes, you can. And we will support you in that. And Lisa, I'm just putting you on full blast. So just so you know, keep your phone at the ready, because I've already been telling this one and that one, call Lisa, because she's leading GAE through this effort. And I am sure she'll be able to talk with you about the steps that they went through and what they need to do. And all of that. It's just such a great example of the collaboration that's going on between GAE, the leaders here, right here with us tonight, but also your staff, Lisa, and our staff. Just have been working so hard together. And I needed to just say thank you, because you are helping us all by standing up for your students and your educators and your communities there in Georgia. So thank you. So I was curious, what kind of stories are you hearing? And I don't know, when you said that one of the school districts wasn't even reporting the reality, I didn't know whether in Georgia, some of your educators are actually, and parents and students, by the way, being pressured to not tell the truth. Is that happening there too, being threatened that they cannot tell the truth?
Yes, parents, educators, students are being pressured not to tell the truth. I've seen the post from parents saying it's just a virus. Kids get a virus all the time. If we want to keep our schools open, don't tell them if your child is sick. Don't go get tested. Actually know of a situation where a school nurse, who unfortunately was not one of our members, told the truth and was written up and received a reprimand because she reported to the Department of Public Health the actual cases in her building. She did the right thing and was reprimanded for doing that. And it is our governor today. He's done some things that we've appreciated. But in this instance, he said today, it's a virus and people are going to get it like they get the flu or a stomach bug, and we just have to deal with it. And that's not who we are as educators. Because when you say a child is going to get it, in my mind's eye, I see Gregory, I see Trayvon, I see Kiana, I see Amaria, I see a child's face, because every child that is in that class becomes a piece of my heart. So where somebody can say, well, some kids are going to get sick, and they may be able to say, well, it's not going to be my kid that gets sick. For educators, every kid is my kid. Every
Wow.
one of them. And that's something that I've said when I became president. I did have to go clean out the things in my classroom, and I teared up.
I bet.
I started crying, and I had a friend who was helping me do that. And he looked at me and he said, Lisa, you're not leaving behind the 24 students. You now have 1.8 million students that are your babies. And that's who we are as educators. And we had to do the right thing, GAE, for every one of those 1.8 million, because every one of them has an educator, every one of them has a parent, and they are a piece of their heart. And should even one more of them get sick and suffer lifelong damage or pass away, it's one too many when we can prevent it.
Wow, that was powerfully put. And you just demonstrated what we really impress upon our members. Their stories are powerful because they always center in their kids, right? And for us as leaders to uh, understand that our responsibility is for every student, it's not one or some. That's why, trying to design a system for a few to have and the others get left behind. No, that's not okay. That's not okay. A reporter asked me, they said, they made the statement about, well, Becky, it's only 0.01 kids that would die theoretically, from COVID. And I said, do you know how many that is? Do you? That's 50,000 students, 50,000 children. Is that okay with you? Is it okay? Is it your child? Whose child is it? Well, for us, it's all of our children. And if there's something we can do to prevent that, then we need to do it. And you know what, Lisa, and I'm sure this happens to you too. It so upsets me when people present me with this false choice and say, well, you teachers and bus drivers and paraprofessionals, you just don't want to go back to school. No, we all want to be back in school with our children. That's how we were taught to teach and nurture them and feed them and all the things that all of those educators do for our children. Of course we want to be back, but we want to go back in a safe and equitable way. And what they try to force us into this false choice is, okay, safe means that the Senate needs to do its job and pass the HEROES Act. That's what it means. We're not saying don't go back. We're just saying it's not safe if the infection rates are high. It's not safe if they don't have PPE. It's not safe if they aren't sanitizing the schools regularly with the CDC guidelines that they use to talk about the cleaning materials that schools need. It's not safe if you can't socially distance. It's not safe if you don't have a plan for not if, but when a student or educator gets COVID. If you don't and you're communicating with parents, you're not hiding it, all of that. That's what we're saying. And don't tell me we can't afford it. We can afford it for the billionaires. They're getting richer, have been getting richer since March. We can afford it for them. You're telling me you can't afford it for those 50,000? I don't know. Nope. You're talking to the wrong person because you can afford it. You did for some and you didn't afford it for our babies. Not okay. Don't force me into that false choice because that is a false choice. We can go back safely. We just must have the resources to do it. And people who are in positions of power and authority have to care enough to do it.
That's right.
You got me all worked up, Lisa. What was the question?
I agree with that. Everything, 100%.
And our viewers obviously agree with us. And I'm going to, after that, Becky, We do this every week. And some of our viewers may not yet be members of GAE and the NEA. So if you are not a member, this is our request, this is our invitation for you to join us, because we are the largest labor union in the country. We are the oldest organization in Georgia, and we are the organization in Georgia that will stand up and speak up and tell the hard truths when it has to be told. And sometimes I know tomorrow there are going to be some legislators and there are going to be some state officials who are not going to be happy with me. And that's okay, because we're telling them the truth. So you can be unhappy because I told you the truth, but you can't disagree with us that the safety and health of our students must come first and must be protected. And that should be everyone's priority. So if you are not a member, we want you to go now to joingae.org, joingae.org. And we just got a message from someone who is joining, and she said she is joining because of Connie Jackson. And Becky, Connie Jackson is our local president in Cobb County. So we have one new member. And anyone else, if you are not a member, please join, because just as Connie is fighting for her members in Cobb County and we're fighting for our members statewide, you have local presidents who are going to be there fighting for you. And yes, one of Becky Daniel, one of our NEA board members from Georgia, said, "We speak louder when we all speak as one."
Yes.
And that is true. And thank you, Daniel, for putting the link in there for me. If you can put it again, I will appreciate it. So we don't have, surprisingly this evening, we don't have a lot of questions from our viewers.
I have one.
Go ahead, Carly.
Dying to ask this. It's such an honor to have you here, President Pringle. And I read a few things about you in preparation for you coming here, and I'm so impressed to learn so many things about you. And I did have one question. Personally, I felt called to become a teacher. It's something I knew I wanted to do from being a young child. I'd come home and play school, and my first money I ever got, I begged my grandmother to take me to the teacher supply store, and I bought a record book so I could have a teacher grade book. And I was so proud of my teacher grade book. And I just want you to share with us your why. What is your why that you became a teacher?
Wow, Carly, I love that story. It mirrors my own. You know, I used to come home and I had two sisters, one younger and one older. I was a middle child, explains a lot of things. I would force them to play, and I do mean force them to play school on the steps of our home. I'm not I'm not really sure why my older sister put up with it, because she beat me up on a regular basis. But anyway, you know, I'd make them do their lessons and everything. Did them just right to graduate to the second step, and we had 6 steps. And if they got to the 6th step, then they could actually be promoted to the next level, which was the first step. Okay, and so we did. You know, every day it was in me. And a lot of it has to do with my history. I have quite a few family members who are teachers. My dad was a teacher, a history teacher, and I learned from a young age the value of education. And as a young Black child growing up in North Philly that didn't have anything, we had nothing. Um, my parents instilled in me how education would be the difference. It would be the way out for me, and it would ultimately be the difference. My dad didn't graduate from college until my sister graduated from high school. So he became a teacher later in life, but he had all these odd jobs that just kind of fed us. But he instilled that in me. And I believe this, the words that I say, I believe that public education is the foundation of this democracy. It is a common good for us as a country that we will be stronger, we will be healthier, we will have a strong economy, we will care about and take care of each other. We will actually live the poetry of the Constitution, we the people. We the people. It's all of us, right? Men
Right.
and women, gay and straight, black, brown, white, differently abled. It's all of us. All of us deserve that right to be fully human. And I believe that as a young girl, and I saw my role and responsibility in not, I never described myself as, that I taught science, love science. I think it's just, just opening up those wonders, creating those experiments you were talking about earlier, Sharon, when you're setting up your lab. I just got this big old smile on my face. And I was like, yeah, that's right. That's setting up the lab. So exciting. But I always talked about teaching students, not teaching science. I taught students the wonders of science because it was about making sure that they had what they needed so that they could be prepared for that next journey, that next level. And I always said, my number one goal as an eighth grade science teacher was for them to leave my classroom loving science so much and seeing it as part of their everyday lives that when they got into high school, Sharon, and they had a choice whether they were going to take science in that 12th grade that you were talking about, that you teach, when they didn't have to, at least in Pennsylvania, they only had to take 2 years, 9th and 10th, that in 11th grade and in 12th grade, they took science classes. They kept taking science all throughout high school, even when they didn't have to. And you know what? I followed them. I went right up to that high school. Are you taking advanced chemistry? You better be, the answer better be yes. So Carly, yeah, I just always saw myself as a teacher, and it's just such an incredible honor now to be representing not just teachers, but all of the educators who are doing such amazing, heroic, inspiring work, especially in this moment, while they're trying to take care of themselves and their own families. They're stepping up because that's what they do. They make me so proud all the time.
Okay, we do have a question. I'm finding the questions now. One of our viewers wants to know, Becky, do you have a nomination for our new Secretary of Education?
Well, first of all, and I talked with Vice President Biden about this. First of all, he promised that it would be an educator. Now, that's a novel idea. Somebody actually knows something about students and schools and actually stepped foot in a public school before they were made the Secretary of Education, that they actually were qualified. Yeah, so that, I guess that's kind of a low bar, but you have to say that out loud, right? After Betsy DeVos, the most unqualified person ever. So right now, Lisa, what we're working on is making sure that we have developed the criteria that we believe should be in our next Secretary of Education. And we've done that by listening to our members. And so that was number one. We want them to be someone who actually taught kids or work with kids in some way that they understand that. We also want them to be someone who understands, as I said, that public education itself is a common good, that they are there to actually shore it up, to strengthen it, to fund it, that they, for example, are not investing in charter school industries where they are siphoning out the money from our public schools and saying that some kids can have and other kids can't, that they actually understand and really are excited about. And I'm so excited about this, that they understand the evidence of our community schools, what our community schools are doing now, where we're surrounding the kids with all of that support, from healthcare to addressing their social emotional needs, to making sure that they have access to higher order thinking and problem solving skills, AP classes, all of those things. That we have a Secretary of Education that believes in that, and finally, that we have a Secretary of Education who understands that we really have to change the system so it is equitable, that is racially and socially just. And to do that, Lisa, and you know this in Georgia, after decades of disinvesting in our public schools, we have to turn that around. We have to change that funding system in a really powerful way. So we're looking right now at qualities like that, putting them through a ringer of a test that if you don't believe in these things, if you don't believe that after our students have done everything we ask them to do, that they should be able to afford to go to college, if that's what they want. Those kinds of things. So that's the criteria that we are working on for our recommended candidate, and he is listening and he agrees.
Great. So one of our viewers asked if we were supposed to be tested before we entered the building, and if we could be told to enter our buildings at our own risk. And I don't know of any system that required staff to be tested before they went back. And we know that our legislature passed a bill this year that the governor did sign that we believe was intended for businesses, but the school systems are using that to say that they are not liable if we become sick once we go back in the buildings. So,
Wow.
yes.
Well, yeah, it varies from state to state, and I can speak to that, and from district to district. There are some districts who are trying to bully employees into signing those clauses where they don't suffer any liability from forcing them to go back into unsafe buildings. And we are working with our affiliates, our state affiliates like you, in taking legal action when those kinds of things happen. But it all goes back to what I said before, having everyone, all the stakeholders at the table, developing a plan that everyone is agreeing to and signing off on so that we can keep our students safe and our educators safe and our parents and communities safe, all of them.
And this question, I think I know what your answer is going to be, Becky, but I'll let you answer it. What are the most important thing GAE members in our communities can do to protect and enhance public education?
Vote, 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 vote. Yes, vote. And vote early. Vote early. Vote safely and early. That is the best thing we can do. We know what we want. Right? We know what we want for our students and for our schools and for educators and for this country, quite honestly. We know what success looks like, but we can't get to that place if we do not have elected and appointed officials who are in those positions making those decisions, who will partner and collaborate with us to get what our students need. And now let me say something else, Lisa. I got a chance to talk to some of our members who are running for office, and listen, we are having more and more educators. So I encourage your GAE members to take advantage of our See Educators Run program, because we are running and we are winning. Because if you're not going to take care of our kids, then get out our way. We will run, we will take over your job, and we will take care of our kids ourselves.
We actually have one of our GAE members who is in the See Educators Run program this year. Her name is Treva Gear, and she is running for state senate in South Georgia.
That is fabulous.
She is our endorsed candidate. And no, we didn't endorse her just because she was our member. She went through the process like everyone else. But she is a wonderful spokesman for public education, and she is going to be a wonderful senator. And so we're going to plug her just a little bit just because we can. And her website is Trevagear, TREVAGEAR.com. And if you live in South Georgia, please look up her website and vote for her. You can start early voting on Monday. And we have one more thing. Becky, did you have plans on Halloween?
So the family is plotting against me. That's how I want to describe it. My idea of celebrating Halloween is getting candy for the kids in the neighborhood and, putting on some kind of little thing, little bonnet or something on my head just to kind of get it. No, they're planning an all out thing. I think it's Marvel something or another. And they have, all of us are going to be dressed in some kind of theme. I don't know what it is. I'm not sure. It might be in honor of Chadwick Boseman and his passing and going, recreating Black Panther characters and that kind of thing, but they're working on it. So I will be in full gear, apparently, for Halloween. I don't know. I'm trying to think about how I give out candy safely. That's been in my mind. So I'm thinking about that. If you have any ideas, please let me know, because I do want the kids to be out socially distanced, and I don't know. I'm thinking about it, like laying out bags, socially distanced apart or something. I'm not sure. That's my family will tell me, Lisa, I don't know if you know, but my family moved. They all came and moved in with me. So they're all here. My son and his wife, and my grandson Carter, and my daughter and her wife, and my granddaughter Mackenzie. They're all here. So yeah, it's been an absolute blessing. And now apparently, after many, many years, I'm going to be dressing up for Halloween.
Okay, so I asked you that.
Oh, you didn't want that answer.
No, I wanted your answer. That was a great answer. But you're going to be doing all that when it's kind of getting dark that evening. Halloween is the Saturday before Election Day.
It is.
It is. So we have, and I'm going to put in the comments right now the link. We want all of you that are here today to sign up to join GAE. We are going to have a very special Halloween Get Out the Vote rally from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. on Halloween. Don't boo, vote. And so we want you to join us. We will be making sure that all of our GAE members, if they have not done their early voting and they have not voted by mail, they are planning to go to the polls on Tuesday, November 3rd. And we are going to spend part of our Halloween making sure that they are there. We will have some very special guests that day. And we are already working on those of you who are NEA RA delegates this summer. Every time we go to the RA, Becky, I know this happens to you too. We are asked to donate to the Fund for Children in Public Education. And if you were one of our RA delegates and did so, we are sending you some special treats. So you will get your Halloween treats early, and we want you to have those Halloween treats with you when we have our Get Out the Vote rally from 12 to 2. So
that is excellent. Go GAE. You're scaring up some votes. Yay!
Oh, I like that one. Yeah, we need to scare up some more votes. So Becky, thank you so much for joining us this evening. And we give our guests always the last word to inspire us as educators as we finish this week and go into next week. So we will give you the last word this evening.
Oh, wow. So just thank you so much. It is an honor to have joined you. You inspire me. You let me know we're going to win all up and down the ticket. We're going to win with this kind of engagement. Know that you have 3 million of your closest friends right there with you, helping you, and I know you're helping them. And I'll just leave you, I just want to remind people of the challenge and reminder that Cesar Chavez have for all of us. We're gonna win. There's no turning back, because ours is a revolution of the mind and of the heart. GAE, there's no turning back. We will win because our babies are depending on us to be worthy of them. Thank you for all you do. No turning back.
Thank you. Thank you to all of us that joined us this evening, and we will be back next week once again here on the GAE President's page at 6:30 with Facebook Live. You all have a great rest of the week. And remember, if you haven't made your plan to vote, please make your plan to vote and join us on Halloween as we make sure that all of our members vote. Thank you all. Good night.
Vote Georgia.
Yeah.